Okay, so I'm now done talking about where we have been for the last 2 years and the challenges that we have gone through. And the material evidence doesn't look good for our outlook for sustainability and living on the earth and flourishing as a human race. But let's get back to what the shift is and what the future could be like. So I am not an expert on the shift, and I don't really have direct communication or messages to deliver to you from my ET guides that I remember. I'm not at that stage in my ability yet. But what I have to say about the shift comes from the perspective of the Fire the Grid project, which I'm helping to organize. So I'll tell you the whole story from the beginning so you can get an idea about context. In 2002, Samoya Shelley Yates, a lady from Halifax, Nova Scotia, drowned in a lake with her 4-year-old son. And while she was having an NDE, she met light beings, 3 multidimensional extraterrestrial light beings, who gave her instructions on how to miraculously save her son's life. So when she woke up from her NDE and was rushed to the children's hospital where he was, she found him in a coma, and she went out into the hallway and she asked, she was thinking about what to do, and she all of a sudden got a download about the instructions from the beings who told her basically to do an energy transfer for her little boy. So she got her little black book out and called everybody in her book and got them to come to the ICU for 20 minutes at a time. And she told them, just put your hands on him and tell him about your joy and why he should come back to life, why this is worth it. So they would talk to him about ice creams and puppies. And this happened on a 24-hour basis for 3 days. And at the end of the 3 days, there was a smell in the hospital room, and she didn't know what it was. And she asked the doctor, and the doctor said that his intestines were starting to rot away. And she went into the hallway and she kind of like shook her fist and said, I did everything you told me to do. And a voice, her friend, called her and said, Shelley, come quick. He's awake. And when she returned back to the room, she saw that he was sitting up in bed, and he smelled like a brand new baby. The burn marks from his chest were gone from the defibrillators. And the doctor was sitting there saying, oh, this is just a reflex. He doesn't even know who you are. And she asked him, is my name Nancy? And he shook his head no. He couldn't speak because he had tubes coming out of his mouth. And she said, is my name, Susan? And he's like, what are you talking about, Mom? And then he said, she said, is my name Shelley? And he nodded his head. And she just put her hand up to the doctor and said, we're not talking anymore. So he made a miraculous recovery. They didn't even think that he would walk, or even his body would even function anymore. And he was out of there, I think, in about 2 weeks. Now, Samoya, which is her new name, Samoya took him home, and for a year, she continued to have communication from these light beings who told her interesting things about life and how things work. And one day they said, what you did with a small group for your dying boy, you can do with a large group for a dying planet. So she eventually endeavored to take on this project of firing the grid. And what they said was that 1 hour of time globally all over the world with many people can reignite the Earth grid. So what is the grid? The grid is something that is in the space all around us. It's not just encasing the Earth, it is in 3D space around us. And every person has a hexagon on the grid. This hexagon is like a hollow frosted straw, and our true soul essence is a point of light within this hexagon. And when we are in joy or high frequency emotions, this little photon of light spins around the hexagon very quickly, and it charges the grid. 1,000 hexagons that are connected to your hexagon get flooded with your love energy. And if you're in low frequency states, then this little photon of light is going around slowly, and you're actually drawing energy from this grid around us. So what they said was to fire the grid with these instructions, and it's very simple. Number one is to be in your joy. And two, after you're in your joy, say thank you. The appreciation is the ignition and the joy is the fuel. So in 2007, Samoya, with her small team, with Anael and Bradfield, who were musicians and helped her to organize everything, inspired the low estimates of 20 million people from all over the world to participate in this project to fire the grid. They also fired the grid in 2009 and 2011. And then Samoya kind of dropped off the scene. And there were a lot of people that were wondering, where she went. And I was one of them. So here's my little side story about how I got involved with Fire the Grid. Anael, or Annie, who was the organizer for the first 3 Fire the Grids, is also in the ET contact world. And she is a CE5 leader in Montreal. And I somehow figured out that she was the organizer for Fire the Grid. And I was pestering her every year or two, asking her, where is Samoya? What is happening with the book that she is writing? I know I want more information. I love this project. And every time that I talked to her, she said, oh, Samoya is feeling depressed and she just is working on trying to get her book going. Well, as the years passed, I had changed my career from working in the oil and gas industry to becoming a clinical counselor. And so I offered Annie to tell Samoya that if she wants some free counseling to help her get her book finished, that I would be happy to provide that. I got a message from Samoya saying, hey, don't worry about the free counseling. I received a vision that a dark-haired lady would help me bring my message to the world. Is it you? And I said yes, even though I really had no idea, but it sounded exciting. And so over about 3 years or so, we would talk, we would work on healing trauma, as well as different startups for Fire the Grid, which in those few years sometimes went a little bit and sometimes didn't get very far at all. But this was all kind of practice to help Samoya get started with Fire the Grid again, which was necessary. So in all of the time since the first Fire the Grids, Samoya, the light beings had told Samoya that the ideas that they were giving her were all for her consideration. They offered them as ideas, and if she wanted to run with them, she could, and if she didn't, then they were fine with that. But last July, 2021, they came forward with a lot of pressure, and they said that she needed to come forward now and that it was needed. And so she did come forward, and we had a Fire the Grid pulled together at the very last minute. We only had 5 weeks to prepare and 3 weeks of promotion, but I think that we got close to our goal of 8,000 people. And just before the event date, someone called me very excitedly and said, I just had communication from the light beings that was clearer than I have ever heard it in my ear, where they said that there is an Iceland, there was a volcano in Iceland that is going off, and it is the start of a series of highly destructive events, and that the group that you have put together is enough to help to mitigate what was about to happen. So we did have an effect, and it was positive, and we started to do Fire the Grid more regularly. The light beings gave us some dates for November. We had one in January, and there's one coming up in just a week, actually, on Monday, February the 21st. So if you're interested in that, you can go to www.firethegrid.world. Okay, so the rest of the story that has to do with the shift that I can explain to you is that there are new messages that the light beings have brought this time. The first 3 times it was all about firing the grid. It was very simple. Now they're describing to us that their mission for us is to help us ease our way because there is a shift happening. And I'll show you a little picture about what is happening. Whoop, I have to go this way. There we go. So basically, we have these 2 Earths, and one is in the 4th field and one is in the 5th field. We're going through a mitosis where the universe is separating, and we have an Earth that is moving on to live in full glory, and then we have an Earth that is going off to decay. And the people that remain with that earth are still going to have good lessons, and it's not a tragedy that anybody ends up staying there. The new earth is already in the fifth field, and humanity has a chance to consciously travel with her and create the new earth that we will live in. So this is unprecedented. We have never had a chance to go through a quantum leap like this consciously, knowing what is happening. And so what firing the grid can do is, and this is just a summary of all the things firing the grid does, is it uplifts humanity and changes timelines, thereby easing suffering and easing the transition. The beings are also collecting our energy signatures during the events, which is our energy signature is our unique sound and light frequency card. It's like our name, a very unique name. And when we fire the grid together, those that aren't practiced enough to ring the bell of their highest frequency will get an extra boost, and then their signature will be recorded. I don't fully understand this. Samoya and I haven't talked about this extensively, but I assume it has to do with maybe gaining entry to moving to the fifth field if you are not actually naturally at the level that would allow you to get in, because it is simply a physics thing. It is about a frequency match. If the fifth field is vibrating very high and you are vibrating at a lower level, you cannot get into that. You will just not fit through the mesh. Lastly, when we're firing the grid, we are programming the fifth field and creating the world that we want to live in. So even down to the specifics of what delights of this world that we want to take with us, like ice cream or race cars that don't pollute, as well as the essence of the frequency and the feeling states that we want to live in. What the light being said about this time that we are in right now, in the middle of this shift, is that there will be something that they call frequency sickness or frequency illness. And I'll show you a quick picture here of the David Hawkins scale. And so you can see that at the bottom we have low frequency feelings, which move into, middle ground feelings and then go up to high frequency feelings. And as the vibration of the field that we are in now gets higher and higher, which has been happening progressively, those that are still lingering down in, say, like 300 hertz are not going to feel very well. And many years ago, the beings shared with Samoya that there will be something that comes up that is going to look like a pandemic, because people at the level of 300 are trying to fit into a field of 800 and they're going to feel very miserable. So Samoya was shown mass sickness throughout the world, which is interesting. So it is important to keep your frequency high as the frequencies around us move up higher and higher. Some other encouraging things that the light beings have shared is that December 31st, 2021 was the last dark day. It was like an entry gate where once we pass through it is like a solstice where we get a little bit more light each day as we are progressing into higher frequency. So that they said that means that things are going to get easier and easier. Still, it's not necessarily going to be entirely easy, because now is the time where everything that does not work on Earth and does not work within ourselves is coming to the surface, because the light is cleaning from the inside out. And that's why we're seeing what is wrong with the world, who wants peace, who doesn't want peace, and secrets and lies and other unsustainable ways of living are being uncovered. So we are in a time of birth, and much of the struggle is ultimately going to be good for us. We just have to go through it. If you think about a butterfly as it emerges from its chrysalis, it's coming through a teeny hole, and it's very difficult to go through. And as it moves through, the liquids that are in its wings are drawn through to the ends of the wings. And once the wings dry, they can deploy. And they have to go through that challenge to proceed to their next phase of their beingness, much like a baby chickie who has to break out of its egg on its own. So that's like what humanity is going through right now. So what will the shift look like? Samoya has been shown many different things. It could be rainbow bridges. It could be portals. It could be like in the Bible where one is taken and one is left. She was also shown ET ships that house us while the changes happen on the planet. Another option is that things happen more gradually and we fix the mess that we have created. So it may happen in an instant or it may unfold over time, and one person may experience one type of shift and another might experience another. Who is going to the fifth field? If you're mostly happy and high frequency and you believe that it's possible, so those two elements, then you will be presented with a choice to go or not. If you are an atheist, but you are very high frequency, that you also be presented with the opportunity to see that life has more to it and it has a multidimensional nature. And if you choose to accept that, then you get to move on over. If you have emotions anchoring you to darkness, like intense fear or a gigantic ego or a lot of fear, did I say fear or anger? Anyways, anger, ego, and fear, you won't be able to make the leap. And it's purely just a physics thing of frequency. So those that are left behind, if you're worried about them or about the parting, they won't even know that you've left because you'll have been taken out of their life print. And apparently we won't feel badly for them because in this new realm, we'll feel so much better in such higher frequencies, and we'll know that they are going off for lessons on the other earth and that they'll be back soon. And time won't feel like it does here now. We'll just anticipate them joining in their own time when they're ready. What will life be like in the fifth field? So whether it's instantaneous or progressive, after the shift, it will be more aqueous, less physical, less dense, and we will have abilities that we will start to get used to and learn how to use, like telepathy, astral travel, out-of-body experiences, healing with energy, and manifestation, etc. There's a lot of us that already have these abilities now, and as we go through the shift, as we're moving towards whenever it does happen, more and more of us will hear more, sense more, feel more, and our level of adeptness will go up. So this is really exciting, and it truly is the dawn of a new age, a golden age where we can be in our physical bodies and be safe and have abundance and seek pleasure, because these bodies were built to experience the sensations of pleasure. It's a little bit mind-blowing, and I have to say that this is all difficult to conceive even for me, and I have been listening to Samoya share the messages of the light beings for several years, and so I do hope that this all happens, and we know that the light beings were right before, so I'm going on faith, but irregardless of the exact accuracy of the message, I think that it brings us back to the idea that we are creators and law of attraction is at work. And to create what we want, we have to start first in our minds and our hearts, and that it will come to fruition. And that it's quite a feat for us to do this right now, because the joys that we have experienced as humans are not really the norm of the human experience. We have on a massive scale chronic PTSD from eons and eons of trauma that have been passed down through families. And so there's a lot of healing to do, and we have to practice these new frequency states into being if we're going to either find ourselves in the fifth field or to find our way into balance and sustainability and healing with Gaia. So preparation before the shift, we can ask ourselves what is sustainable within ourselves to help us to prepare. The time of separation is gone. So as a whole, getting along with each other and loving and caring for each other and behaving in kind ways and expressing compassion. One of the quotes that Samoya has shared from the light beings is that if we do not unite in our similarities, we will surely dissolve in our differences. So that is something that is really important. And we can see in the world today that there is a lot of polarity and conflict, and it is very easy to just put aside whoever is right or wrong, and just treat each other with respect and kindness, because ultimately that is all that matters. Some simple instructions for preparation from the light beings to help raise your frequency, simply for your own benefit, but also to help practice yourself into higher levels of being, to access the fifth field. They have a 3-point technique. They say that you can listen to music, do random acts of kindness, and find and experience your joy, and live it without judgment, and then say thank you after. I think that I need to make a special mention about many of us who not only have burnout from regular Earth experience, but that many of us are helpers that are on the front line of what is happening right now. And whether we identify as starseeds or uplifters, generally, I think we need to carefully distribute our assistance and energy in ways that maintain our own resilience and sustainability. And ultimately, we do have to take care of ourselves first so that we do have something to give to other people, for those of us that find our joy in helping others. Also, as a counselor, healing trauma and everything that has happened globally and individually. Of course, there are aspects to mind and emotions. Is important to reconstruct some of the ways that we're thinking and to do things that are soul sustaining and emotional regulation. But for trauma, it is not nearly as important, those two things, aspects, as relaxing the body. So incorporating some of these examples into your life: yoga, breathing, exercise, Tai Chi, dance, hot baths, progressive muscle relaxation, etc. So basically, what trauma specialists are learning is that healing does not necessarily come from the left brain analytical piece of us, which we might work through in talk therapy, but it truly comes from the front right lobe, which is all about how to soothe, much in the same way that when a baby is crying, you just pick up the baby and you rock it back and forth and you pat it on the back. You don't explain to the baby why it doesn't need to be upset. So basically, you're telling the body that it is safe in a language that the body understands by using any one of those different techniques, and even simply doing a body scan often throughout the day to become aware of how tense you are and deliberately relaxing your muscles to come into coherence with your body. The other things that are going to help as we wait for the shift to happen is that when we see chaos, and there is likely much more chaos coming, whether it is food shortages or natural disasters, because we're still in the middle of this process, you can do what you can and send it your love and then turn away from the chaos. So turning off the television if it generates fear. If you have friends that don't know an inspiring meme from a fear producing one, tell them not to send you memes, or teach them how to keep a focus like you are on the path of awakening and discovery that we're all on, and keep a focus on hope for this complete transformation of humanity and a world where sustainability is the order of the day. So this is our time to dream it all into being. You can make it your mandate to plan a joyful day. It's very simple. Every day, just as much as you can, finding these little joy pockets to bring your frequency up, which, whether or not any of this is true or not, bringing your frequency up uplifts those around you and makes life so much more pleasurable. So, and then if this is true, then we can program the new field with our joy and co-create our bright future together.
Thank you very much, Celia. As always, Samoya, am I saying it correctly?
Yep.
Her story always touches me. So I was trying not to tear up there when I was listening to that. It's so uplifting.
It is. It's such a compelling story.
Yes, yes. So now we have an opportunity, if anybody has some questions, to ask Celia about a presentation or about anything else that you might find that she would be an expert on or have an expert point of view on. So if there's anybody here who wants to start out with a question, I see that Selena said in the chat room that she loved this and gives us a thank you for producing it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I'll just take a moment here to ask a quick question that I had while we were going through that. Um, does she have any idea where the light beings are from, or any more information about the light beings themselves?
So they are multidimensional extraterrestrials. And I think when they said just call us light beings, they wanted us to not worry about where they are from. They are an ET race from somewhere.
Yes.
So they're not and I know Samoya says that to people because she is she casts a very broad net over who it is that her audience is. And so she says, you know, if you want to look at the light beings as angels or spirits or guides or ancestors or whatever it is that you need, she says that this is how, you know, non-physical and spirit communicates with us as they bring us whoever we need. But in Samoya's case, she needed extraterrestrials. Her son, when he had his near-death experience, he went into the arms of God. And he was cradled there for 3 days with light and angels and love and everything. So when she asked about that, they said that you have too many preconceptions to go there.
I understand.
So she was a Star Trek person, and if she had met God in a near-death experience, she would say, "Oh, I'm hallucinating." But instead, she met ETs, and she was okay with that, and that made sense for her.
Yes, that makes sense for me too. Yeah, our beliefs are powerful, and most of our experiences are based on our beliefs at a very fundamental level. Thank you. Is there anyone else who? Rob Catrone is asking, are there any additional Fire the Grid dates after February?
So this is interesting. Yeah, I needed to talk about this and I totally forgot about it. Thank you, Rob. So February 21st is the next one, and the one after that is February 21st, 2023. So there's an entire year with no Fire the Grid dates, but they offered us a whole bunch of different ideas for how to raise our frequency. And we're going to promote and prepare for the big last Fire the Grid. They said this is the last call for wake up in 2023. But until then, they said, why don't you have joy fasts once a month? So we picked the third Sunday of the month, and people in their area can pick 11/11 if they want, because that's a time that we've used for Fire the Grid all throughout history. Although in February, this February and the next February, it's 11/07, which I keep forgetting. And I keep putting the 11/11 a timeout and having to retract it. But in that year between joy fasts, we're trying to put together an app to help people to remember to fire the grid for 5 minutes a day to practice as well. There's an encouragement for people to form light brigades, so teams of 3 or 6 that get together regularly. So it's kind of like a book club. It's like a joy club, and you decide on what it is you want to do that brings you joy. And it could be weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is that you choose with your group. And these little stations of people all around the world are going to help boost up the locations that they're in.
Yes, thank you, Rob, for asking that. That was important to get in there. And is there anyone else who has any questions for Celia? Oh, I see Sammy has her hand up. So if you want to go ahead and
Wonderful. All right. So my question is, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My question is when oh no, I can't. Is it Samira?
Samoya.
Samoya, sorry. When she was going through her kind of dark shadow period, did she tell you, was there anything that she had learned during that period that propels her forward to helping with Fire the Grid?
Yeah, Samoya has had a very challenging time as a light worker, and I think that part of it is the three waves of volunteers that Dolores Cannon talks about, where she says that, if you're of a certain age and you feel like you are a star seed, or that your mission is to assist with this awakening of humanity, that I think if you're about 50 and older right now, that it was extremely tough to be the basically groundbreakers, or the point of the spear, to come through this dense energy. And so um, Samoya actually says that there are not a lot of her group left, and that she's actually one of the last grid workers that was able to make it, like even survive to this time. So it has been very difficult for her, and she still has her ups and downs, but there is a lot that she has learned throughout the time. And I would say that probably the things that she's mentioned to me recently are is to not ruminate, to not keep thinking, and thinking and thinking and thinking and analyzing, and like what went wrong and what's happened, and who am I and all of this, and to just take action in the small ways, and being gentle with yourself, non-judgmental, as well as keeping an eye on your air time. So really taking into that law of attraction principle of, okay, so I don't want to live and experience any more suffering or misery, so I need to take my attention away from that, and focus on things that are good, that I do like, or that are even neutral. I think that would probably sum it up. Oh, and also she has two cute little puppies, and they are adorable, and I think that those are probably some of the things that just help her get through to the next day, because they are absolutely delightful.
Thank you. And yes, I've realized recently, I get the thoughts in my head, and I realized that my cats were sent here to help me move forward.
Mm.
And so I love that thought with the puppies. So.
Absolutely. And Samoya was shown that these two puppies are actually light warrior women who, um, I guess they're really, really strong in their other beingness or incarnations or whatever. And it's very funny that they are these, you know, from the army of light, and they're these fluffy little cute, roly poly puppies. So I would absolutely believe that, Samantha, your being who came as a cat is there to assist you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Sammy, Samantha?
Yes.
Yes. Is there anyone else who has an, oh, I see something here. Um, I see Susan Duggan asking in chat, so many things you talked about struck a chord with me. I have to bring it back up. I see a puppy in my future. Yes, Susan has been without her animal friend for a couple of years now. So I think I would encourage you to do that, Susan. Rob
Awesome.
Catrone asks, I'm actually seeing many people wake up and have healing and heart parties. So there's people gathering. I assume that's what he's saying. Are you experiencing something similar, Celia, where you are? Is there people who are getting together more with this common goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, generally, it feels like, because the pandemic does feel like it is lifting and changing, that like I am seeing a lot of people out and about. Even just on my walk home from work yesterday, I saw like dozens of groups of people just enjoying time together outside. Um, and in general, I think that there are people that are really coming to a new awareness of who they are, and that they are, like Samoya says, one of the things she says is, say yes to the idea that you are a 10 million megawatt light being stuffed inside of a itty bitty human suit. And
Yes.
and once you say yes to that, all the other doors open up.
Wow. So Michael's given us another message here. I assume this is from one of the live Facebook feeds. And Savannah Lawson, she says this makes so much resonance with me. So yeah, I think that this is very, very common ground, and a great place to start, as we have with the webinar here and talking about what the future is going to hold. Is there anyone else in the Zoom room here who has another question? Or hasn't asked yet?
While they think about it, I'll just say that I think that that's one of the beautiful aspects of this project is I could talk to literally anyone about this project because it is just based on joy.
Yes.
That's it. Like how much more simple can you get?
Yes. Yes, I agree. Would you agree with that also, Betty, if you don't mind me asking you?
Absolutely, 100%. As soon as she said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you so you're finding this with Newfoundland also, that there is a shift happening, or a precursor to a shift happening?
Yeah, slowly, very slowly. Now I don't talk to many people in Newfoundland anymore because I'm generally on Zoom, so I'm talking to people all over the world. But it, I, I'm feeling it, like I said, very slowly. And Lois, you lived here.
Yes.
So
yes.
you know this island. It's pretty tough to shift. And
it's some of it is behind the times.
Yeah. And this year has seen things tighten up even more. Okay. So yeah, in the past 2 years in particular, because that one full year I basically lost. But what I can see is there's a change, and I can't. And I've been literally looking at everyone, thinking, what is it that I'm seeing? What is it? So there's something, and every single point that Celia made, it was like bingo, yes, 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 every single one. Thank you, Celia.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to share this information.
Yes, it's a pleasure to hear it.
Thank you. I knew that you would have some insight, and I was curious too, because I thought, I wonder where Newfoundland is in their progress here with this. Yeah.
I'll try and keep you updated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So Sammy also said, or Samantha also said, everything Celia said resonated with me.
Yep.
And there was another one here. There we go. It's from a Facebook user. The new Earth, is there a sense of pockets that we will be in, or a whole new Earth? Does that make sense?
I think so, because there are pockets now, I think, aren't there?
There are.
I think that it is going to totally separate. That's what the light beings are saying.
Yes. Yes. All right. So I think that, is there anyone else who has a question? Oh, Samantha's got her hand up. Go ahead, Samantha.
Okay, I'm going to talk again. Now, you had mentioned before, you had asked who the enemy is, and instantly I thought like the 1% white males who are trying to keep the power, the money, their secrets. And I just wanted to know if I'm on the right track, or if you could give us some insight.
Well, that was from Elena Danan, so I'm not sure what she would interpret that to mean based on her paradigm from what her ET contacts have shared with her. But let's say if we ask this question to Samoya, she would say, don't even worry about the they part, because it really could be anybody and anything. And all of us have different ideas on who is the enemy. Who are they? What is the darkness? Who is using the darkness, or what is the darkness that is like suppressing humanity? And she would say, just turn away, because the details are going to get us into arguments, and who is right and who is wrong. And we might be right and we might be wrong. But the interesting thing about thinking about the shift, and this discussions with Samoya that I've had about who is going to the fifth field, from my paradigm, something that if I think, I think that this person has it completely wrong, and these are the bad guys and these are the good guys, and this is what's happening on Earth. But that person, if they are high frequency, they're going to the fifth field. Like, it doesn't matter. if they're wrong or if I'm wrong. So if I'm completely wrong, as long as I'm mostly happy most of the time, and I believe that there's a potential that this new field or dimension does exist, then in we go. So it actually becomes kind of irrelevant, the details of who they are or who is correct about who they are.
Yes. And I like how you said earlier, it was along the lines of what my guides are telling me is that we are them. And that if we look at it from that point of view, it's very empowering, because that means that if we shift ourselves, we shift all of it.
Yep, exactly. And one of Samoya's main guides is herself from the future.
Yeah. I so get that. And I believe Joe put a message in here. This is very different, yet somehow fits very well with everything that I have been experiencing or come across. Thank you for coming, Joe. I know that Joe is in Africa, and she's in a very late time zone right now. She has stayed up so she could watch this, and then I will be able to send her the complete recording at the end of it so that she didn't miss anything else, because if she has to go to bed. All right, so I'm going to end the questions there for Celia. And before we shift gears here, I want to say thank you. If everybody wants to unmute their mic and say thank you, you're welcome to.
Thank you, everybody. It's been really wonderful to be here and to connect with all of you here and all of you on Facebook and anybody who watches this later. Thank you so much for participating in this wildlife experience with me. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Celia.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.